And then I saw her face. I'm a believer, and not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love.
Hey guys, CYHG here, and I am back with another reaction video. And today I'm going to be reacting to 10 disturbing puppet shows from around the world. And this video is by Blame It On Jorge. I've heard of Blame It On Jorge. Yeah, I've seen some videos from him, and I recently subscribed to him. So yeah, and as for this video, this is recent. So I thought to myself, since people are reacting to Blame It On Jorge's videos, I thought to myself that I should react to this video, since I've seen a couple people react to his videos. And I guess we're going to be checking out some creepy puppet shows from back in the day, or recently, I don't know. And I'm assuming they're kid shows. So, yeah. Anyways, let's jump it in! Hold on, sorry. That was too fast. Let me try it again. Let's jump right in. Oh, okay. Copyright warning, or maybe like a warning saying it's gonna be creepy.
Puppets. What is it about them that creates such an unsettling atmosphere? I'm sure many of us had a particular puppet or doll that tormented us growing up, always worried that it might come to life and do something. This fear comes from their uncanny valley factor, and the fact that they are only able to move when we're in control of them.
God, they look so weird.
So the thought of them moving on their own creates an unsettling feeling. And there are many puppet shows on television that enhance this fear, whether they intend to or not. So today, we're going to be taking a peek behind the curtains at 10 of the most disturbing puppet shows from around the world.
Yep, around the world. Top 10 disturbing puppet shows from around the world. Nice beat though.
The BJ and Dirty Dragon Show.
The BJ and Dirty Dragon Show
aired from 1968 to 1974 and starred Bill Jackson, the BJ of the show, and
Bill Jackson.
Puppets. The show spun off from Jackson's first series, Clown Alley, which was wildly praised but did poorly due to having a bad time slot. The studios were impressed with him though, and gave him a second chance with the BJ and Dirty Dragon Show, bringing along some of his most popular puppets. Jackson played himself as the mayor of Cartoon Town, which despite its name, had puppets as its residents. Dirty Dragon was the postmaster, but ended up eating all the
postmaster?
At the center of the town was a large blob that spoke in a distorted voice
that's not
that
fair.
only Jackson could understand. He would manipulate the blob into whatever shape he felt was appropriate for that day. The show received tough competition, forcing the studio to make a few alterations to the format, including turning the puppet characters into human actors in costumes.
God, they look so weird.
This didn't sit well with audiences though, and it was changed back to puppets quickly. It's easy to imagine why the puppets wouldn't work well as human-sized costumes since they were terrifying to look at in puppet form. Imagine that blown up a few sizes and moving far too human-like. The puppet's facial features were all grossly exaggerated in order to create a comedic effect.
And I must say, that's some ghastly
retaining
magician.
their deformed expressions throughout their entire appearance on screen, speaking roles and all. Despite the ugly and disturbing appearances of some of the puppets, Bill Jackson and his shows received critical acclaim around the Chicago area, and even held one final show in 2009 at the Museum of Broadcast Communications.
Alright, number 9.
Les Minikeums. Les Minikeums was a French children's puppet show that aired from 1993 until 2002. The show was immensely successful in France, even leading to a massive fan base that is still active to this day. And to be honest, I don't know why. The Minikeum puppets are very uncomfortable to look at. They're very similar to
They don't seem that creepy.
The puppets are very stylized, mixed in with a sense of realism. They look as though they were drawn as cartoon characters first, and then made into puppets later, similar to what Brad Bird did with The Incredibles. However, these puppets were given realistic-looking features on top of their cartoonish appearances, like lips, skin textures, and eyelids. The end result is something that looks very uncanny. In 2017, the overwhelming demand of the Minikeums media caused the franchise to be rebooted, where it is currently airing to this day. The show must be pretty popular for some reason, but it can't be argued that the puppets are pretty creepy.
Yeah, they even blink.
The Spooks of Bottle Bay.
The Spooks of Bottle
Bay was a British children's drama series that aired from 1993 to 1995. 3 VHS tapes were released featuring a few episodes, but no DVD release or video upload exists for the remaining episodes, and there hasn't been any airing of the series on television since. The show follows the adventures of Sydney Sludge and his dog Maxwell inside of a ship in a bottle, while coming across his little siblings, Sybil and Cedric. Each time he is helped, unbeknownst to him, by the Spooks of Bottle Bay. In terms of what makes the show unsettling,
why are those dogs
seem
pink?
To be a sort of hybrid between the style seen in less Minikeums and Lazy Town, and more abstract style similar to the BJ and Dirty Dragon show. While a good amount of the series currently remains lost, it appears that some viewers have been trading early recordings, so it's possible there may be more of this series to be seen in the future.
Number 7.
A Scare at Bedtime. A Scare at Bedtime, also known as Podge and Raj, was an Irish puppet show that aired from 1997 until 2006, almost 10 years. The name of the show was a sort of pun on a show called A Prayer at Bedtime, which overlaid the text of Roman Catholic prayer over serene images while choral music played. The show follows a pair of twins in their 60s, Raj and Podge, who lived in a converted insane asylum with a lunatic nurse named Granny, who's dating Satan. This is clearly very different from the plethora of unintentionally disturbing children's shows that have made up this list.
That looks so terrifying.
The series is full of dark and sexual humor, especially with Raj, who makes
humor?
frequent masturbation jokes.
Seriously?
Podge and Raj are rather ugly, with large bulging eyes and gross, pasty skin. This makes sense though, given the leprosy. The show is no stranger to gross out humor.
What is that? Was that a heart?
Vomited and other crude jokes. Given that this show is aimed at adults and teenagers, it makes sense that this puppet show would embrace the more disturbing and weird elements that come with the territory. The fact that most of this was intentional takes away a bit from the unsettling factor that's present with many of these children's puppet shows. But it still belongs on this list nonetheless.
Mannequin lady naked.
Ugly ass puppets.
Number 6.
Tots TV.
Tots TV.
Produced in Britain by Ragdoll Productions, the show focused on 3 children who went on standard children's adventures, such as going to the pool or picking apples. Like most of the shows on this list, it's ultimately harmless. But it's the look of the puppets that really seals the deal in terms of creepiness. They appear rather
they do look so
and
weird.
lifeless, aside from the obvious clacky looking eyes and barely moving mouths. They look like a crossbreed between Raggedy Ann and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Interestingly, one of the 3 children, Tilly, is voiced completely in French.
What the?
In the French version, she speaks English, and in the American version, she speaks in Spanish. Aside from that, there's really nothing else setting this apart from other puppet shows, though. It's just another unintentionally creepy children's show. Except this time with stringy straw hair and beady little eyes.
Number 5.
Mr. Meaty.
You
all knew Mr. Meaty would be on here, so let's just dive straight in. This Canadian-American teen comedy originally aired on CBC television in Canada and Nickelodeon in America. It follows 2 teenagers, Parker and Josh, who work at Mr. Meaty, a fast food restaurant in the mall. Not only do the puppets themselves look pretty disturbing, but the content in the show is also pretty messed up as well. There is of course the infamous tapeworm episode where Parker gets a tapeworm after eating raw meat, leading them to sell it to a zookeeper who just straight up eats it.
Jeez, that's gonna lead to spoilers to the episodes I haven't seen yet.
Than just that. One example is the recurring character Mr. Carney, the 109-year-old founder and CEO of Mr. Meaty. He cryogenically froze himself in order to prolong his life, and now he appears so sickly and diseased that he could very well be a zombie. Aside from his looks, he's a rather disturbing individual, forcing his assistant to wear a shock collar that goes off whenever he disobeys him. One short has Parker and a goth girl sticking their hands in a deep fryer, destroying them, and then they proceed to eat their fried hands.
Oh, God!
Another episode has a girl's nose falling off thanks to a zit, and then a rat comes and eats her fallen nose.
The
list goes on, from Parker literally dying of embarrassment to being offered up to a cannibalistic cult. and a frozen body being found in the Mr. Meaty freezers. Just, what the hell was this show? The series ran from 2005 until 2009, so it didn't really have an insanely short lifespan like you might think. Many people seem to remember the show because it was so weird and uncanny, not because of the humor or anything like that. But when you're making a puppet show about meat, it seems inevitable that this would happen.
Katzu film. From 1996 to 2001, an Israeli political satire show titled Katzu film aired featuring, you guessed it, disturbing and creepy
I've never even
puppets.
heard of the show.
Interestingly, most of the puppets
So,
were
did
modeled
I say
after
Sora?
real politicians, so it's easy to see how the transition from realistic humans to
Those
satirical
puppets
puppets
look so
could
weird.
lead into the uncanny valley.
They look like real
Information
people.
about the show in English is rather scarce, so we'll be basing all this information on the few videos present on YouTube. Now, I'm sure you've seen those creepy, realistic Trump and Obama masks at Halloween stores, right? Well, this show is chock full of them for Israeli politicians, with incredibly flabby skin, realistic lips, hair, and just wrong movement.
Wrong
It's essentially
movement?
as if a political cartoon from The New Yorker came to life, but nobody stopped to think how
why?
these exaggerated features would look in the real world before they created them. The result is a jiggly, flabby mess, which, to be fair, is a pretty accurate representation of the elderly real-life politicians they're based off of.
Torchy the Battery Boy.
Torchy the Battery Boy.
What can one expect when they hear
I've
a
never
show
even
titled
heard
like
of the show.
Torchy the Battery Boy?
So
Especially
yeah,
after
there are a
knowing
lot
that it's
of
a puppet show
puppet
from the
shows I've never
60s.
seen before.
The British children's show follows the titular Torchy, who indeed has a battery inside of him, along with a lamp on his head. His eyes appear malevolent and bug-eyed, and the static nature of his face doesn't do much to help. Given that this is a marionette show from the 60s, it's clear that the production values weren't too high. The black and white presentation, as well as the staticky audio, add to the uncomfortable nature of the series and puppets. There's a shot at the end of the first episode where Torchy turns his head to say goodbye to an old man.
Be careful, Torchy.
Oh,
Bye-bye, Mr. Bumbledrop.
no. Kill it with fire.
His head turn is very unnatural in this shot, and added in with the shadows, low lighting, and generally upsetting face, it proves to be the defining shot of the series. Something innocent that was seen as
And it's all black and
something
white.
far more sinister.
Is it really that old?
The Rimini Riddle.
The Rimini
The
Riddle?
Rimini Riddle was an Irish puppet show that aired from 1992 until 1995.
Why does every
and
puppet
lasted
show
for
gotta
3
be from
seasons during a
Ireland?
blog called Saturday Club. Not much is known about the show, given that it has remained almost entirely lost since its finishing airing in 1995. No home media or
1995.
internet upload have been released.
Man, I wasn't
with
even
only
here
2
back
short
then.
clips surfacing in the past 23 years. The only information about the show comes from these 2 clips, TV guides describing the show, and memories of the viewers. Apparently the show was about 3 orphans who live in the Rimini house and try to solve a mystery about 2 girls who drowned many years ago. There's apparently
So there
a
were girls
stuffed
that
otter toy
drowned
named
many
Otto
years ago?
who was evil and might have had a part in the drowning of the girls. As is tradition, the puppets are horrifying. Their faces are horribly disfigured, as though they went through some kind of terrible accident with hair like Carrot Top. In addition to the human puppets, other creatures appear throughout the series, or at least in the clips that are available, that appear like deformed Fraggles, complete with huge, burning eyes.
Jeez, that does look so creepy.
Middle of the night.
I know it is. You were having a nightmare.
You can say that again.
It's unclear if the show was meant for children, but given its dark and disturbing themes, it's safe to say that it was along the same lines as something like Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Extra.
Sara and Hoppity.
Sara and Hoppity?
Sara and Hoppity aired in the early 60s and focused on a young
60s,
girl
huh?
named Sara and her toy named Hoppity, who is very naughty and gets her into trouble all the time. Given that Sara is a human, you would expect that she would be played by a human, but instead she's a puppet like everyone else. The show features marionettes which are rather stilted and restricted in their movement. In the first episode, Sara is managing the front desk of her mother's toy hospital when an old man wanders in, and nobody sees or hears this man come in, aside from Sara. He claims he has a toy to sell, and then pulls out a broken, dead-looking toy out of a sack.
Yeah, that does look so dead.
I tell you, there's no one more clever than Hoppity.
Hoppity? Oh, what a lovely name. Why do you call him that?
Because he's only got one leg and he can't dance properly. All he can do is to go hop, hop, Hoppity.
Hop, hop, Hoppity. Oh, how funny. I'll show him to Daddy and see if he'll buy
This doesn't seem creepy at all. It seems kind of
don't be long.
Cute.
I haven't got all day.
After buying it, Sara cleans him and gives him a new leg, causing the thing to come to life and dance around. And while he's charming at first, Hoppity slowly becomes more mischievous, acting as a sort of demon on Sara's shoulders, convincing her to do bad things. Only she can hear him as well, and when she gets blamed for something bad, she says, "Hoppity told me to do it." It's unknown if Hoppity suggested more and more
so it's like
evil
a
things,
fictional
given that almost
cartoon?
the entire series is currently missing.
Alright, last one.
Peppermint Park.
Boys and girls,
I've heard of
here's
this.
something you can do when you can't go to the park. Or maybe your friends can't come over to play. You could ask your mom to get some bubble liquid. And you can make some bubbles, like this. Watch. Whee!
Oh, mine's pretty.
What the?
That's
Colors and
great.
everything.
Oh, look.
Much like Sesame Street, to which it's often compared, Peppermint Park has a mixture of live action, animation, and puppets. Now, taking one look at this show, it's clear that nobody stopped for a moment to consider that this show was for children.
That looks so
and that
weird.
they would find these puppets absolutely horrifying. Seriously, these are some of the more disturbing and ugly puppets that we've seen on this list. These puppets feature a talking head with two hands that have real human hands inside of them. They always stare straight forward at the screen, almost as if they're staring at you, the viewer. Often with very awkward and slurred voice acting.
Come on, gang. Sing the song along with me this time.
No.
It's marvelous, magnificent. I can't imagine life without the letter M.
The entire show is a mix between a nightmare and a burning trash fire. Despite its relative obscurity, the show has gained a cult following over the past years, thanks to its meme and shitpost potential. You would think that adding funny music and editing the clips into YouTube poops would diminish its creepy nature. But, nah, not really.
Okay, so that's it. So, we get to find out a bunch of old puppet shows back in like 60s through 2000s, I think. And one of them I knew a long time ago, Mr. Meaty. I don't really watch it that much, but yeah, a lot of people told me that it's like the most creepiest show on earth in Nickelodeon. And yeah, I've heard of Peppermint Park. I first found out about it on a video called Top 20 Unintentionally Disturbing Characters from Kids Shows back from around the world. Yeah, I've never even heard about it back then, but I heard it's like the scariest puppet show ever. And the rest of them, I don't even know. But, gosh, those were some creepy puppet shows. Alright guys, I'm gonna end it off right here because me and my family are gonna go to the movies in 30 minutes. Once again guys, thanks for watching and ahoy!